No, absolutely. And Mahmoud, what we're seeing is, you know, a clear understanding that there is going to be this environmental harm, and yet those attacks keep on occurring. And I think in particular, one of the more egregious violators here is Israel, because we've seen Israel again and again repeatedly target, like for example, the oil refinery outside of to the north of Tehran. We saw the impact. I mean, it was apocalyptic, right? That's the words that were being used. The type of acid rain and the type of impact it had, not only on the civilian population there, but also on the environment throughout the region. Um, do we have any mechanism to hold people accountable, really, for such forms of violence?
I feel like mechanism, and as we've discussed on multiple occasions, is the shortcoming, right?
Yeah.
And mechanisms, even though they are there, the enforceability and just the sovereign exception of voluntary jurisdiction in international law, like you cannot, for people who haven't done international law, you just cannot force a state to go before a court or a mechanism or a tribunal, and they're always like
Much to everyone's frustration.
much, yes,
Yes.
much to everyone's frustration. And though and then that is also coupled on with the fact that the enforcement mechanism, I think, with international environmental law, a lot of environmental law and water law and most resource law is like soft law. So
Mhm.
soft law means that it is still in the developing stages, and the enforcement mechanisms are not as strong as they are. I feel like the strongest environmental enforcement mechanism that we have seen are in voluntary arbitration clauses, but like voluntary is the underlying fact,
Yeah.
and we've generally just seen them in like investment disputes. We haven't really seen them for in large state to state cases. I think the transboundary harm concept, which the ICJ has elaborated upon, is becoming like front and center of the issue, and international water law and environmental law, and the UN Water Courses Convention, and similarly the Paris Agreement. A couple of others do talk about transboundary harm, but the issue remains that when it comes to the enforcement mechanism and when it comes to liability, there are reservations of a lot of countries with regards to the dispute mechanism clause, right? And
Yeah.
that's where we stand. I think the largest movement with regards to environmental litigation was the climate change advisory opinion by the ICJ last year in July. But again, that was an advisory opinion that was taken to the ICJ by the General Assembly. So, and that also took a huge momentum on part of the Pacific Islands to be like, we're literally sinking, we're dying, or people have no place to go. So, that is the threshold. I do feel like one strong enforcement mechanism, and I have always advocated for that, are human rights approaches towards environmental and water governance, right? So, you take it into the human rights realm, the right to a clean environment, the right to human rights is not just in international law, it's enshrined in most of the constitutions around the world in one form or the other, right? So the right to life, the right to a dignified life, now all of them, for the actualization of the right to clean water is part of it, the right to clean breathing environment air is part of it. I feel like that are possible enforcement mechanisms before the Human Rights Council, that or other human rights bodies that we could look at. And another thing that comes to my mind on top of my head is the fact that there are particular conventions for vulnerable people, for women, for children, for disabled people. And so, like enforcement mechanisms under those, most of them are focused on ensuring that the right to life and the right to dignity is protected of those people. So that could also be a possible avenue, provided that the vulnerable population, which they are in all the countries where the attacks are happening,
Hmm.
women and children apparently are the worst affected in these conflicts, right?
Absolutely.
So we have an infrastructure at place. The last thing is that even if there's a mechanism, even if we take a country before it, who is going to enforce a ruling of a court or a commission or a tribunal? And that is where we've seen international law significantly lacking, right? And I feel like that is the existential crisis that international lawyers are also going through, right? And which you've spoken about, is the fact that what is it at the end of the day? What's is it worth it or not? But I still think it is, because I still feel that the fight is worth it, because in the end you are also building a narrative, and but at the same time you're also at least documenting the abuse. Just because someone's not doing anything about it, the documentation and the correct historical narrative building is also equally important.
Absolutely, and something that I've argued is international law gives you the language of critique, right? It gives you the language of saying that this is a violation, that the international community has come together and said that these particular acts are wrong, even if you commit them, and if there isn't an enforcement mechanism. The fact that we can criticize you because of this, that I think has its own value there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maham, I wanted to get your views on the concept of ecocide as, say, a war crime. Do you think that would be a better way of, say, perhaps holding states accountable? And we all know, the many myriad problems with the International Criminal Court and being able to enforce its warrants. They're currently out on the Israeli Prime Minister and a number of others across the globe, but and they're not being enforced. But do you think by having like a formal offense within the Rome Statute, that this would enhance accountability?
As much as an international lawyer, I would want that, and as much as all of us would want that, I feel like the Rome Statute, with regards to accountability, is already on like a slippery slope, right? And I find international criminal law quite interesting in that way, in the sense that it is less ratified by states than, say, other like mundane random conventions are. And there's a particular reason for that. The reason is that states do not want, even if a state hasn't done anything wrong right now,
Yeah.
it just shows the geopolitics that we're living in. They want to they don't want to be held accountable if they are forced to do something in the future, right? So the Rome Statute, I feel like, started off as an aspirational document. It has done some good with regards to enforcement of international criminal law, but I feel like that the four crimes under the statute right now, we can hardly like prosecute them effectively,
Yeah.
right? And the momentum, I don't think we can, in the current standpoint, number one, we will ever find the momentum to actually go through the process of having ecocide becoming part of the Rome Statute. Like, even countries that were very actively part of the negotiating process of the Rome Statute in the end never signed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see, we can hardly like agree to the NDCs in the Paris Agreement, like going for criminal liability for environmental damage. I feel like criminal liability for environmental damage is not even something that would be entertained by most states. And secondly, as much as the ICC it was endeavored to do good, the ICC hasn't really done a lot of favors for the global South countries, right? So the global North, global South countries, the ICC is touted as an example of the divide that happens with the selective enforcement of international law. And honestly, Wes, I feel like it's going to be more of the same. Uh, no one is going to take the United States to, okay, the ICC may initiate an investigation, the prosecutor may do some things and then get sanctioned and then get the visas revoked and like the entire package that comes with it. But I think the people who are going to end up being the recipients of or becoming the target of these of a possible ecocide crime are going to be those in the global South. And God knows there are enough problems to deal with already, right? But the high carbon lifestyles are not coming from the global South, right? They're
Exactly.
coming from the global North, right? They're not, most of them who have also not signed on to the Rome Statute. So as much as like aspirationally, yes, ecocide, I do agree with the understanding that if there is no clean environment, water, air, there will be no future for mankind. But I feel like ecocide but criminal liability and ecocide is, we're far reach from that
Mm.
right now, because, and I also feel like it's just going to become a tool for the global North to clamp down further on the global South.